Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paddy and welcome back for another edition of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. Welcome back to 2018, or welcome to 2018. It is time for the Rip Chord Invitational 2018, the 13th annual edition of the Rip Chord Invitational Challenge. We've done things a little differently this year. Usually I have in a bunch of people from around the territories to come in and prove their worth, and I definitely like that style. I definitely like doing that, but for the reasons that I've outlined in the previous videos, I think it's time to refocus on the core Mid-Atlantic Wrestling roster. And so this year we're only having competitors from the core roster, and we can take a look at the best talent that the Mid-Atlantic has to offer. Before we take a look at the bracket, though, I wanted to let you guys know something that I'm going to be doing over the next couple of years that may be of interest to you, but also is just something I want to let you guys know so you don't get surprised by it or anything. I have started working on something I've been thinking about working on for a couple of months now, maybe even years really, when I've been playing TW, and that is that I like the kind of segmented and structured venue system in the Scythe by default, but I do think that there aren't enough venues. The generic venue system essentially solved that issue, but not to my particular tastes. I think there should be more venues, more hotbeds, more interesting locations to hold your shows. And so this series kind of gave me an excuse to do that. So going forward, I'm going to be adding new venues to the game. Not super cheaty venues, just the type of venues you'd expect to see. I'm also making these venues in a separate database, not the actual Scythe database, and I'm importing them to the series. So what I'm essentially going to do, if people are interested, and you can let me know in the comments whether you're interested, is at the end of the series, when I have a bunch of Mid-Atlantic venues, and possibly all around the world, I'm not sure yet, but for now let's just think about the Mid-Atlantic. I have a bunch of Mid-Atlantic venues in a separate database. I could release it as a mod, and you could download it and you could import those venues into your game or your database, no matter what type of save it is. So I wanted to just show you that I have the Meccan Auditorium, which is an 800 capacity venue. I've got the Charlotte Garden. I added the Ace Speedway, and I added the Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium. Some of these are just randomly created venues that I thought of, and some of these are real things, kind of given the Scythe twist. So hopefully you guys don't mind me doing that. I think it's pretty fair. I might eventually do the same thing with Broadcasters. Broadcasters is the one where I still think that they really needs an overhaul. Like I said, with venues, the generic venue system kind of fixed it. And I'm not really that bothered about venues anymore. I think generic venues really serve the purpose that an expanded venues database would solve. But I think the broadcasters definitely do need an overhaul. Partially to move it into the modern world, like internet broadcasters or something that really needs to be thought about. But then again, those are super overpowered in the sense of the game, and so you can't just add internet broadcasters without it just breaking the game. So you've got to look at that, and just generally more broadcasters so that you've got 5 or 6 options at Cult instead of just the 2, and everything tends to go the same way. Anyway, that's enough talking. Let's take a look at the 2018 Mid-Atlantic Invitational Challenge bracket. Oh, I forgot to resize it. Oh well, it's sized pretty well. Let me just move it. There we go. That's still triggering me. There you go. I know bits of it are off screen, but it shouldn't really matter. Whatever. Deal with it. In the top left, we have American Elemental taking on the Architect. Remember, that is American Elemental 2. We're just going to be calling him Amel from now on. Then, moving on to George Woolf taking on the All-American boy, Eric Lee. Newly debuted Scythe taking on our own homeboy, Papa Dan. Ernest Youngman taking on Hugh the Ask. And, of course, then the bracket will evolve as people win and move on to the semifinals. And then, finally, tonight's main event will, of course, be the final match. Let's before we actually get started, why don't we do something we haven't done in other years and take a look at the the Rip Chord Invitational Challenge, and take a look at the previous winners. I think it might be quite interesting to see what company the winner tonight will be joining. Mainstream Hernandez, who currently works in SWF as Jimmy Hernandez, I think it's Jimmy Hernandez or James Hernandez, one of those two. American Patriot, who I think is also in SWF, or is that Bulldozer? I think that's actually Bulldozer, Brandon Smith's alter ego. And then Cameron Vesey, who moved on to, I think, North of the Border. Casey Valentine, who went to US Pro. Steve Flash, independent legend, currently working in New York City. Cameron Vesey, winning it for his second time. Findlay O'Faraday, who currently works for Burning Hammer, he won it twice. Greg Gage won it in 2015. Then Gino Montero won it in our game in 2016. And Island Boy Apollo won it last year. So big honor to win this title. I think Mainstream Hernandez was an MAW champion. Pretty sure American Patriot was too. Pretty sure Cameron was too. Casey was, I think, an American champion. I don't think he was the actual Mid-Atlantic champion. Steve's a legend. Findlay was a 3-time Mid-Atlantic champion. Greg was a Mid-Atlantic champion. Island Boy was a Mid-Atlantic champion. Lots and lots of pedigree behind this tournament. So, with that said, let's get into the show tonight. We also have the debut of Daredevil Team Devil May Care tonight, taking on a pair of babyface heroes. But aside from that, let's get started with the show. Sweet Tabitha is in the interview area, and she's trying to ask American Elemental some questions, and American Elemental is essentially just staring at her. He doesn't really like to talk, so he just goes to the ring. And then the Architect gets on the mic and he says, tonight I have a wonderful opportunity. I am the local celebrity, the in-house celebrity, the A-lister, the most must-see superstar in Mid-Atlantic wrestling. But you know what? I've got that technical edge, I've got that technical swing, and although I haven't won a match in months, I'm improving every time I go out there. And I think I'm a better technical wrestler than American Elemental, and tonight I'm going to prove it. And in the first quarterfinal match of the Mid-Atlantic Rip Chord Invitational Challenge, we do indeed have American Elemental taking on the Architect. Architect does out-wrestle American Elemental, and it actually throws American Elemental through a loop. American Elemental's trying to go for those high-flying maneuvers, trying to go for those fast-paced stuff, but the Architect's just grounding him. Architect has learned, he's evolved, he has embraced that technical wrestling prowess, and he just manages to clip a wing of American Elemental, just keep him grounded, and American Elemental just can't get off the ground, and it trips him up for a little while. He can't go to the top rope, he can't do his usual flashy stuff. American Elemental has to grapple. And it's a good thing American Elemental is a good grappler, because he does manage to overturn the seemingly a disadvantage he had against the Architect early on here, and he did manage to pick up the victory. But for a good period of that match, the Architect was on top. So good stuff from him there. Okay, and we have, at the end of our stage, it's Papa Dan and George Wolf. Papa Dan says, both me and George, we're in the tournament tonight, and it's a big night for us. George, I don't want to talk about me. Let's focus on George. George was 77-0 last year. He was on the most impressive win streak of all time, all due to the tutelage of Papa Dan. But you know what? Tonight is going to be the start of an even better year for George. You see, his momentum is going to carry him to a great 2018, and he's finally this year going to get that Mid-Atlantic Championship shot he has been owed for over 2 years. Papa Dan confident in his protege/mentor/friend, George Wolf. But of course, Papa Dan is also in the tournament tonight, taking on Scythe. Eric Lee comes out to the interview area and he says, I am the all-American boy. I like to work hard. I like to take my supplements. I like to get in that gym week in, week out, and make sure that I look the best. And tonight I get to show everyone what I can do, because I am one of the greatest wrestlers to have ever come out of the territorial developmental system, and I'm back here in my hometown. I'm back here in my home area, and I'm ready and I'm willing to do well in this tournament. And we move on to Eric Lee taking on George Wolf in a very good match, as George Wolf defeats Eric Lee with a spear. Great chemistry between these two, and George Wolf moves on to the semifinals to take on American Elemental. Good stuff from these two as we go to the interview area, and Vinny Cruz is there with the monster among men, the demon Scythe, and he says, my client is a monster. I'm not responsible for what my client does. I'm not responsible for his actions. Tonight he's not really in this for the glory. He's not really in this for the tournament. He's here to wreck house, to cause pain, because some men, they just want to watch the world burn. And we move on to Papa Dan taking on Scythe. Papa Dan's already talked, so he just goes straight to the ring. And in a brutal match, Scythe defeats Papa Dan with an underworld spike. How could he do this? How could he destroy our hero, our local favorite, Papa Dan? That is a disgraceful. Papadan is hurt. He's a frail old man, and he is hurt. He's not really old. He's really young, actually, but he's frail, and he's hurt, and he has to be stretcher jobbed out as Scythe moves on to the semi-finals. And we get Hugh to ask, the Dread Pirate. He comes out and he says, I am the only person in MAW history to appear in 3 consecutive Rip Chord Invitational challenges. Now, that's not an accomplishment. That's not a goal, Tabitha. But that is a fact. You know, you don't want to be the guy who's appeared in 3 consecutive Rip Chord Invitationals and never won it. So that's why tonight everything changes. Because Ernest Youngman was better than me last month, but he's not going to be better than me tonight. I'm going to make that guy walk the plank. And tonight I finally win the Rip Chord Invitational Challenge. Ernest Youngman comes out to the interview area and he says, you know, Hugh, you earned my respect last month. I didn't like you. I still don't like you, Hugh. But I respect you. So tonight I'm not going to insult you. I'm not going to call you names. I'm not going to call you anything. I'm just going to get in that ring and I'm going to show you the respect that a competitor deserves. Because I love professional wrestling and quite frankly, you're a worthy opponent. So let's get out there. Let's have our match. Ernest not one for games on the best of nights, but tonight he's just interested in wrestling. He finally respects Hugh Dask as a competitor rather than just a silly pirate. And in a good match, Ernest Youngman does defeat Hugh Dask. The assassin in the squared circle hits him with the hit. And does indeed progress to the semi-finals. He's going to be taking on a Scythe. You know, Scythe, we had Giant Brody in the tournament last year, and he didn't manage to win it, but he just tore a path through the tournament last year. Scythe seems to be doing the same this year, and if Giant Brody's anything to go on, Scythe is going to have a very successful career here in MAW. Remember, Giant Brody is our current regional champion. And we move straight into our first semi-final match. Fantastic stuff from these two. One of the best matches we've seen in MAW in the last couple of years. George Woolf manages to defeat American Elemental with Spear. American Elemental just comes in with that technical wrestling. He's just, at this point, he's still got that injured leg. He's still got that hurt left leg from the Architect match. And he can't do the high flying. He can't do those flying moves. So, but he's still got that grappling prowess. So he just comes in and he just tries to grapple with George Woolf. And it works. He manages to slow down the energetic brawler, George Woolf. But he just can't quite get on top. And George Woolf has those powerful, passionate maneuvers. And in the end just manages to hit him with his patented spear. And goes on to the finals. But who will George Woolf be taking on? Is it the monster Scythe? Or is it Ernest Youngman? So it's going to be Ernest Youngman in another good match. Ernest Youngman defeats Scythe by disqualification. When Scythe got disqualified after going into an attacking rage. So yeah, like Vinnie Cruz did Warren, Scythe's not here to win even, really. He's just here to cause pain, and at one point Scythe's just beating on Ernest Youngman, just beating him down. He's in the corner, just sick forearms to the face, chops, forearms, nasty. Ernest's got like a broken nose at this point. He's loopy, he's out of it. Referee's like, Scythe, get off him. We might get a stoppage here. And Scythe just won't get off him, so he's like, you know what, fine, no stoppage, disqualification. And Scythe gets disqualified. And Ernest Youngman is going to be moving on to the finals to take on George Woolf. As we move on to the debut of Devil May Care, this just hot, exciting tag team who do not give a shit about their own bodies. They're only here to throw themselves at things and hope that they can get the victory. It's Stuntman and Acid who have debuted tonight, and they're vicious, they're nasty, and they don't care. They'll throw themselves at you in just high octane, high action, energetic moves. They have that Devil May Care attitude. They're reckless. They don't care, and they'll do anything it takes just to. I mean, it's not even really to win. They just want that adrenaline rush. They just want that risk-taking attitude. Almost like they just get a kick out of it. But on this occasion, they do manage to win when Devil May Care do defeat Vachal 14 and Flamberg. When Stuntman defeated Vachal 14 with a Black Ice Driver. Good stuff from the debuting tag team. Ernest Youngman is hurt. He's hurting in the interview area. George Woolf is in the ring ready for the main event, and Ernest says, I got this crooked nose. I got this blood pouring out of my nose, and I don't even know if I'm thinking straight. But you know what? It don't matter, because I'm in the finals of one of the greatest tournaments in the history of this business, and I'm going to compete. And I don't know. George Woolf is one hell of a competitor, and I don't know if I could beat him on the best of days. And I tell you, I'm loopy. I'm out of it. I don't know whether I'm seeing straight or seeing triple, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fight. Because I am a wrestling machine. I'm the best there's ever been. And you know what? I think I got a chance. Any day, any night, come rain or shine, I think I got a chance. Because I am the assassin of the squared circle, and this is what I do. I wrestle. So you better watch me, baby girl. Because I'm going to take on George Woolf, and I'm going to give it my best shot. So Ernest Youngman will fight. He's hurt. Scythe brutalized him in the semifinals, but he's going to try to take on local guy George Woolf, who's been on a tear. Fantastic 2 years. Last year alone, he was 70-something and 0. He had an undefeated year last year. Can he take it into a massive victory to win the most prestigious prize in independent American wrestling? Yes, he can. In about that good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, George Woolf defeats Ernest Youngman in 21 minutes and 30 seconds with a spear. George Woolf has done it. George Woolf has won the Rip Chord Invitational Challenge. Fantastic stuff from both men. Ernest, this isn't a charismatic grapple fest like we're used to from Ernest Youngman. He's not in there winking at the crowd, getting on top. Ernest is struggling. And George, with his traditional just hard strikes, hitting him with those chops to the throat, hitting him with those forearms, with those kicks. It's not in a vicious way. It's not in a brutal way. He's just doing what he does. He's a brawler. That's what he does. But Ernest obviously has come into this rocked. Ernest has come into this hurt. Ernest is not in the state to be able to take those shots and bounce back. That's just not where Ernest is right now. He's fucked. Every one of those shots, you're thinking, is he out? Is he gone? Is he concussed? He's probably coming into this match with 1 or 2 concussions anyway. Every shot is probably causing literal brain damage to him. And but he won't give up. He keeps just trying to put together a sequence of holds. He just keeps trying to get George in a situation where he might tap out or he might be able to hit him with the hit. But it's just not working, and George Woolf in the end manages to hit that. At the end, I imagine Ernest is like still stumbling on his feet, like, I won't give up, and he just stares at George, and George just hits the rope. Spear. 1, 2, 3. And for the first time, George Woolf is crowned the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling's Rip Chord Invitational Challenge Champion, the most prestigious prize in American independent wrestling. The most prestigious tournament prize in independent American wrestling goes to local lad George Woolf. What a fantastic 2 years he had, and what a way to cap it off. Papa Dan's there celebrating with him. Still a little rocked himself from the Scythe attack earlier. Everyone's kind of got fucked by Scythe tonight. But George Woolf lifts the trophy to the delight of the crowd, kind of. I mean, he's a heel, but he's a local MAW lad. He's one of only 2 people in this tournament who started the series in MAW, the other guy being the architect. And so, there's a little bit of, I think, crowd affection towards George, even though he's a bad guy in a lot of ways. He's willing to cut corners, he's willing to let the rage get the better of him. Papa Dan has not only cooled that down, but also he's been around a while. I think there's definitely some hometown boy feelings towards George Woolf, and tonight the hometown boy does indeed take home the trophy by defeating Ernest Youngman and becoming the Rip Chord Invitational Challenge winner. Anyway, that was a really good show. I really enjoyed that. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Check out the rest of the series. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're feeling especially generous and particularly like the first show of 2018, go ahead and check out the link to my Patreon in the description. If you want to have a creative input on the series, the best place to go is my Twitter. Link to that is also in the description. Let me know what you think about the venues. Let me know what you think about the tournament. Let me know what you think about 2018. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who's going to be a key player this year has appeared on this show. There were 8 people plus the tag teams, and one of the tag teams doesn't matter, the jobber tag team. But you saw a lot of the main players here. The only guys who are missing that are currently active players really are Island Boy and Giant Brody. And I can now announce that Giant Brody and Island Boy will be having their rematch next month at the Wrestling Classic for the Mid-Atlantic Regional Heavyweight Championship. And then everyone else who is really an important main event player at the moment, except for maybe one, was on this show. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll let you know, you'll be seeing most of the roster. Again, I'm actually not going to have too many guests this year. The only guest I'm thinking of having are Confederation of the Territories champions. So the tag champs and the heavyweight champ and, theoretically the women's champ, but she's not going to be really on the show. I should probably mention that I made a women's title for the Confederation in this save because I added a few women's feds. What's surprising is the AI also added a women's fed, the new Canadian one, Canadian Women's Wrestling Federation, I think they are. Anyway, I'm rambling. Been too long of a video. 2018 is kicked off. There's a lot of information to talk about. But I'll try and spread it out throughout the year. We're already at 20 minutes, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys will join me for the Wrestling Classic. George Woolf, the Rip Chord Invitational Challenge champion, will be there. Ernest Youngman, the runner-up, will be there. Scythe, the guy who never got pinned in this tournament, will be there, probably. I can't guarantee Scythe. I'll guarantee the other two, but I can't guarantee Scythe. And in our main event of the evening, Island Boy Apollo will take on the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Champion, Giant Brody, for the title in our main event of the Wrestling Classic. I hope you guys will join me, and if you do, I will see you guys then. Peace out.